Hello and welcome to Planet Earth 21st Century. By now you should know how awesome this planet is because, after all, it is the only known planet in our solar system that is capable of inhabiting living organisms such as plants, wildlife, and people. People, that's you and me. And since the beginning of our creation and of the realization of humanity and deep and heavy things like that, we people have been concerned about a lot of things in our world. Nowadays, we are primarily concerned with things that may jeopardize or contribute to its awesome factor. Because let's face it, ever since the World War era, we finally had the great epiphany that life on this planet is great and we shouldn't mess it up.
I love the sun so bright.
I love crustaceans.
I love the stars at night.
I love the whole world.
So many things to see.
I love the catfish.
I love the lemur eyes.
I love the future.
I love when humans fly.
I love the whole world.
No place I'd rather be. Still dirty. Still loving it. I love to blast off. I love adrenaline.
I love the Big Bang.
I love where air is thin.
I love the whole world.
And being part of it.
Seriously, go ask Discovery Channel, they'll agree. Among things that get our attention and concern are politics, corruption, terrorism, art and culture, world hunger, rampant globalization, environmental issues, the economy, Wait. Actually, it's not just about the economy, but more or less people concern themselves with something very important that is related to that, and it's money. Money. They say money makes the world go round, and it is true.
Money makes the world go around, the world go around, the world go around.
Because in this world we live in today, you can't do much without money. Money is used all the time. Money buys you ownership to a house. It pays for your education, health, bills, clothes. Even basic necessities like food and water need to be purchased with money. Nothing is really free in this world. And this is why we stress over money when we need it, when we don't have enough of it, when we aren't secure enough with how much of it we already have, and all this paranoia because we don't want to end up like this or like this. Well, unless you don't mind that sort of thing, then okay. But of course, a lot of us don't really stress about money to an extreme extent where we worry about the financial problems and conditions of other people. Unless, of course, it's a family member or a friend, then that's plausible. Anyway, the average person doesn't have to worry about financial problems of other people outside those that matter to them. We, the regular people, don't really have to worry about the money problems of an entire nation, and even more so a number of nation-states. All we have to really worry about is our own situation, our own condition in the economy, and how the person who's in charge of worrying about the big picture is dealing with it. And I guess that's easy for us because we regular people aren't in charge of the big picture because that's tasked to be the care of the hot shots like the government, multinational corporations. Oh, and speaking of the one in charge of taking care of a number of nation states, we have the European Union to deal with the money cases for a good percent of Europe. Ah, yes, the European Union. If you're going to talk about the people worrying about the money, and you turn those people into Europeans, and you make some of those Europeans national leaders, and you make those national leaders member states, then you have to talk about the European Union. Now, before we go any further, I think it is highly vital that you understand what the EU is and what it is all about before we proceed. The European Union is an economic and political union of 27 member states which are located primarily in Europe. The EU traces its origins from the European Coal and Steel Community, the ECSC, and the European Economic Community, the EEC, formed by 6 countries in the 1950s. In the intervening years, the EU has grown in size by the accession of new member states and in power by the addition of policy areas to its remit. The Maastricht Treaty established the European Union under its current name in 1990. Wait, you're all ISC majors, you should know what the EU is. Okay, I think you're now fully up to speed. Shall we proceed? Okay, now about the EU and the European economy. In the EU, there are a number of policies that constitute to the Union's integration, such as regional policies and the CAP, both controversial issues. According to Baldwin and Whiplosh, Europe's economic activity is highly concentrated geographically at the national level as well as within nations. This is a problem for social cohesion since people located in the core enjoy higher incomes and lower unemployment rates than people elsewhere. European integration seems to have led to a narrowing of income equality across nations, but an increase in inequality within nations. Nevertheless, European integration has been accompanied by only modest relocation of industry among nations, but the little movement we have seen has been in the direction of manufacturing activities having become more geographically dispersed, not less, while most European nations have become more specialized on a sector-by-sector basis. To counter this, the EU created several regional policies. The goal of these policies is to help disperse economic activity to less favored regions. Most of the money spent are for regions that typically have per capita incomes that are less than 75% of the EU average. Regions like Spain, Greece, Portugal, and Ireland have benefited from this. The EU spends about a third of its budget on policies such as the European Regional Development Fund, the Cohesion Fund, and the Common Agricultural Policy. Now for the CAP, according to EUROECA.eu, it was first established to provide food to the ravaged economies of Europe during the post-war period. As time went by, the CAP aimed to sustain the agricultural sector of the EU as it pursues further enlargement and deeper integration. Now, the sticky part of this controversial issue is that there have been a number of problems linked to the CAP, such as problems with the supply, disposal, dumping of excess goods, issues on the budget allocated for maintenance and reforms, income disparity among farmers, and the environmental and animal welfare hazards. Of course, the EU is rushing to propose solutions for these matters, proving that there is still hope for the improvement of the CAP and regaining confidence domestically and internationally, as well as achieving stability within the EU. Okay, all the boring stuff is over. So there you have it, people of planet Earth, 21st century, the EU and how it concerns itself with money so that its member states don't have to worry about the whole, if not how they and their people are affected. We end this look into the EU and its regional policy, most especially the CAP, with a simple question. Why do we care again? Aren't we supposed to be worried about Uncle Sam, USA, and China? Honestly.
Dollar bills, y'all, come on, that beat.